Scorpio, come closer for a moment, because something sacred is unfolding in the quiet space between your breaths. Something that was meant to find you exactly today. Not earlier, not later, but here. Right now, in this moment when your spirit has finally grown strong enough to receive what was always meant for you. You've carried so much in silence that even the walls around you have felt your weight. You've walked through storms that most people will never understand, storms that didn't just test your patience, but tested your identity, your integrity, your faith, and the truth of who you are when no one is watching. And today, in the unseen realm, in that place where divine wisdom moves like wind through tall grass, there is a message rising for you with the unmistakable resonance of truth. God says, "I'm proud of you. You passed what others could not." Let those words settle into your bones. Let them echo in the chambers where old doubts once lived. You don't hear this often, not from others, and sometimes not even from yourself. But the divine has seen every chapter you thought was invisible. Every night you cried quietly so no one would worry. Every battle you fought silently so no one else would struggle. Every time you chose compassion instead of cruelty, honesty instead of convenience, responsibility instead of escape. These things didn't go unnoticed. You've passed tests that weren't designed to break you. They were designed to reveal you. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, Scorpio. There were moments when you were tempted to collapse under the pressure, when the weight on your chest felt heavier than your own heartbeat, when the path ahead seemed so dark that even hope felt like a stranger. But you moved anyway, you breathed anyway, you kept going even when part of you wondered whether anything would ever change. And in those moments, heaven took note, not because you were perfect, but because you remained faithful even when everything around you felt faithless. You stayed honest when it would have been easier to lie. You stayed loyal when others were careless with your heart. You stayed strong even when exhaustion pulled at your edges. These weren't small things. These were soul-level choices. And what the divine wants you to know now is that while others faced similar storms and allowed bitterness to swallow them, or ego to distort them, or fear to freeze them, you kept reaching for the light even when your hands were trembling. That is why this message is arriving for you now. You passed what others failed. You passed the test of endurance, the quiet, unglamorous endurance that no one applauds, that no one posts online, that no one recognizes until the story is told years later. You survived moments that were never meant to make sense. You endured betrayals that would have poisoned another heart. You continued to believe in goodness even after witnessing the worst in people. You softened without breaking. You learned without becoming cynical. And perhaps most importantly, you forgave without forgetting the lesson. This is a kind of strength that the world often misunderstands. Because you never boasted about your pain, never weaponized your wounds, never used your suffering to manipulate sympathy. You carried yourself with a dignity that was born not from pride, but from wisdom. This is why the divine is proud of you, not for your perfection, but for your integrity. You passed the test of authenticity. You chose truth over approval. You refused to shrink your light to keep others comfortable. You stopped dancing for people who only watched to criticize. You spoke up when silence would have protected your reputation but suffocated your soul. You chose what was right, even when it made you unpopular, even when it cost you relationships, even when it required you to stand alone in rooms where conformity was easy. Many people cannot do this. They trade authenticity for convenience. They mold themselves into whatever earns praise. They abandon themselves in the pursuit of belonging. But you chose another path, the path where your soul stays intact. And the divine saw every moment of that courage, even when no one else did. You passed the test of emotional depth. When life pulled you into darkness, you didn't numb yourself the way others do. You didn't drown your pain in distraction or denial. You didn't hide behind temporary escapes or sweep your wounds under carpets where they would later explode. You faced your shadows with eyes open. You sat with the ache long enough to understand it. You allowed your pain to instruct you rather than destroy you, and it made you someone who navigates life with a kind of depth that others can feel but cannot name. That depth is your gift. That depth is why your intuition is razor sharp. That depth is why people come to you with their secrets, even those who never had the courage to tell you the truth when they should have. Your soul has become a compass, finely tuned to truth, because you allowed yourself to feel what others refused to face. You passed the test of sovereign love. You learned how to love without losing yourself, how to give without giving everything away, how to stay open without sacrificing your self-respect. This is one of the hardest lessons for Scorpio, because your heart is powerful, ancient, and fiercely loyal. You feel deeply, you bond intensely, and yet you've learned the art of loving without self-abandonment. You walked away from what hurt you, even when your heart felt like glass. You released people you prayed would change. You stopped fighting for those who refused to fight for you. And you learned that real love cannot be built on the bones of your own exhaustion. This was one of the tests many fail, and you passed. And now that you've crossed this threshold, a shift is happening. The divine is moving pieces behind the scenes, opening doors you thought were sealed shut, redirecting you away from people who cannot follow you to your next level, and bringing into your life those who can honor the version of you that emerged from the fire. You're stepping into a season of recognition, not from people, but from the universe itself. The opportunities coming toward you are not rewards. They are alignments. They match the person you've become. They match the clarity you now carry. They match the strength you've earned through every lesson, every tear, every transformation. And yes, Scorpio, I feel it strongly. You've outgrown certain environments without even trying. Your energy shifted, and the things that once felt heavy are falling away naturally. You no longer resonate with drama. You no longer tolerate half-truths. You no longer cling to connections that drain you. Your soul is demanding purity. It's demanding reciprocity. It's demanding peace. And the divine is honoring that demand. The next chapter of your life isn't about fighting for space. It's about being invited into rooms where your spirit is recognized instantly. It's about connections that feel like home instead of tests. It's about opportunities that align with your purpose instead of your fear. It's about receiving what you once prayed for in moments when you had nothing left to give except your faith. God says, I saw every moment when choosing the right thing cost you something precious. I saw every time you kept going, despite the quiet heartbreak inside you. I saw you forgive those who were careless with your heart. I saw you love even when you were hurting. I saw you grow even when the world expected you to crumble. I saw you rise again and again, and I'm proud of you. Let those words wash over the parts of you still convinced that you haven't done enough. Let them touch the places where you still carry old guilt, old shame, and old stories that don't match who you've become. The divine doesn't see your flaws the way you do. The divine sees your effort, your sincerity, your evolution. The divine sees all the ways you kept your heart soft when life tried to harden it. That is why you are trusted with what comes next. And what comes next, Scorpio, is transformation. Not the slow kind, but the kind that changes the trajectory of your life. You've been in spiritual training without realizing it. Every heartbreak strengthened your intuition. Every loss deepened your compassion. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every delay taught you patience. Every ending prepared you for beginnings that require more maturity, more clarity, and more power. You didn't suffer for nothing. You were being calibrated. You were being shaped into someone who can hold what is coming. There is a new purpose rising in you, a deeper calling that whispers through your dreams, through your intuition, through the subtle shifts in your desires. You're feeling pulled towards something that requires courage, but promises fulfillment. And the divine is saying, move. I will guide you, I will protect you, I will open the path as you walk. You don't need to know the entire map, you only need to take the next step. You're entering a season where you will feel supported in ways you have not felt in years. You'll experience clarity that arrives like lightning, sudden, unmistakable, and freeing. People who drained you will drift away, not because you forced it, but because you no longer vibrate at their level. Opportunities will appear that feel like they were carved just for you. Conversations will unfold that unlock doors you didn't even know existed. Financial shifts will begin not through force, but through alignment. Emotional peace will arrive not through control, but through surrender. And Scorpio, the divine wants you to know this. You are not behind, you are not late, you are right on time. Everything you thought was a setback was really a setup. Everything you thought was rejection was really redirection. Everything you thought was loss was sacred clearing. You didn't fail, you were being refined. And now the universe is aligning with the version of you that rose from the ashes. So breathe. Soften your shoulders. Release the weight you're still carrying from battles that are already over. You have permission to exhale now. You have permission to rest. You have permission to receive the love, support, abundance, and peace that once felt out of reach. Your tests are complete. Your initiation is done. Your chapter is turning, and the divine is watching you with pride. And before this message closes, let this truth settle gently into your awareness. The story you've heard today is a spiritual reflection, a symbolic mirror, a whispered possibility woven for your healing and awakening. If it resonates, let it guide you. If parts of it feel like prophecy, hold them softly. And if anything doesn't fit your journey, allow it to drift away like a passing cloud. This message is an offering, not a command, a reflection, not a verdict, a doorway, not a destination. It exists to remind you of the strength already inside you, the light already surrounding you, and the divine companionship that has never once left your side. And now, Scorpio, if your spirit feels even a small spark of recognition, if your heart whispered, "This is for me," then claim it gently by typing, "I passed the test," in the comments. Let it be an affirmation to the universe that you are ready for your next level. Let it mark the moment your story shifted. You've come so far, you've done so much, and God is proud of you. The universe is proud of you, and deep down, your future self is proud of you too.